Okay, we're on air. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order. Welcome, everyone. Welcome at home. Today is Wednesday, April 13th. This is our Bangor School Committee regular meeting. If we could all please rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any adjustments to the agenda?
No, there are not.
Okay, wonderful. And public comments, and as always, quick reminder, members of the public may address the school committee for up to 3 minutes on school and education matters. Complaints or allegations concerning specific employees or students will not be allowed, but will be addressed through established policies and procedures. Public comments shall be directed to the school committee and be brief and not repetitive. The school committee's practice is not to respond or debate with speakers during the public comment period. The superintendent or his staff will follow up on comments outside of the meeting as appropriate. Before starting, please state your name and place of residence. Do we have any public comments today? No? Okay, excellent. Next, we move to superintendent's proposals and updates. We don't have any action items. We do have informational items. The first one is the full day pre-K update. Superintendent Taker.
Yes, my pleasure to introduce Principal Lynn Silk and pre-K teacher Emily Robinson will update the committee on the full day pre-K program at Vine Street School. You turn your mic on too.
Push. So thank you for giving us this opportunity to come back and report to you. We were so thrilled last year when you made the decision to allow Vine Street to have a full day pre-K, a little ahead of schedule on our plan. Mrs. Robinson is one of our outstanding teachers at the Vine Street School. She's taught there for over 20 years as a special educator, and had told me it had been her longtime dream to be a pre-K teacher. And I was like, I'm never letting you out of special ed because you're too good at what you do. Plus, it's only a half-time job, so it's just not going to work out for you. And so then when the full day came on, I knew I could not pick a better person, and she has knocked it out of the park, and I'm so excited for you to see what this year has looked like at Vine Street.
Sure.
Okay, so it's just forward and back.
Perfect. Hi there. 2 years ago, a friend of mine asked me what my word of the year was, and I'd never had a word of the year, but after reading more about it, I decided my word for 2020 would be joy. Funny how that would be the year of a pandemic, and seeking joy in all things would be so very important. Last year, my word was gratitude, and throughout 2021, I focused on being grateful for even the smallest things. It was during the summer of 21 and ready for a change that the opportunity to apply for a transfer to be the pre-K teacher came. I jumped on the chance, and I am so grateful you all gave me that opportunity and Vine Street School to pilot a full day pre-K. As 2022 approached, I again tried to think of a word and nothing came. I kept going back to gratitude and joy, so they stayed with me. It's been that kind of year, a year full of joy and gratitude. Each morning, 20 faces enter my classroom, smiling and ready for the day. Since you all can't come and spend a day with us, I'm hoping to offer you a glimpse of what we are learning, how we are growing, and the joy that takes place at Vine Street School. A typical day begins with students playing outside at recess, giving them an opportunity to move, burn energy, and to regulate their bodies as they prepare for the school day. This start teaches them the importance of outside time and exercise. The students line up and enter when the bell rings. They have to find their names on their hooks, hang up their belongings, get out their lunches and folders, and place them in their cubbies inside the classroom. These routines teach them to recognize their names, facilitate multi-step directions, promote self-care, and also teaches them to be responsible for their belongings. Students are greeted by Mrs. Guthrie, Ed Tech, and myself. They greet each other and often know who is absent even before I do. The importance of this, community. When students enter the room, they have a few minutes to engage in an activity at their table set out by us. This may be using putty. To them, it's play. To me, an opportunity to strengthen the muscles in their hands, improving fine motor skills. They use math manipulatives. To them, building and creating. To me, they are engineers, creating models, making patterns, and making abstract ideas concrete. Students learn to cooperate while sharing materials and ideas. They engage in problem solving, strengthen their communication, and work together to clean up. We then move to the carpet where we start our morning meeting. The goals of our morning meeting are to reconnect for the day, to review the schedule, to build skills, which include making connections to each other, to listen, and to improve turn taking. We engage in math skills when completing our calendar activities, and science when we discuss the weather and seasons. All right, we're 45 days in. I hope you're not tired. 45 minutes in. I won't continue to go through our day minute by minute, but we'll rather highlight the other components that make up our full day in pre-K. Themes this year were determined by our curriculum Big Day in Pre-K by Scholastic. Some of these have included topics such as families, our community, animals, and nature. We've immersed students in literacy, math, community building, science, and social emotional learning while tying in these themes. For example, after reading several versions of The Little Red Hen, we discussed how we all need to work together to get jobs done. We read several versions and compared and contrasted the characters and the problems in each story. During afternoon centers, students were able to rotate to the puppet theater, where they put on their own performances of The Little Red Hen. They worked together, sharing the puppets and talking through their lines. They listened and compromised, sequenced the story, and used their own creativity to improvise. In the Fine Motor Center, students drew pictures of their favorite characters in the story, and some attempted sentences to go with their pictures. In another dramatic play center, students engaged in pretending to make bread just like the Little Red Hen and then served it to their friends in the restaurant. While at recess, students found a large branch that had fallen. Just like the lessons from the story, students worked together to move it to the side of the building where the custodian could remove it. The students sang, "The more we get together, the happier we'll be," as they transferred the branch from one part of the playground to the other. Literacy, fine motor, gross motor, community building, play. Throughout the day, we vary instructional methods and engage students in whole group activities, small group activities, one-on-one guided practice, and independent work. Who thought learning your name happened only by writing it with a pencil or a crayon? Here, students are engaged in spelling and learning their names by creating it with magnetic letters, by pinching and placing marshmallows, and by writing it with their finger in fake snow. Why do we do these activities? Not only are they fun, but they're developmentally appropriate. These skills teach students letter formation and how to write their names, but also incorporate strengthening exercises. Shown here are the x-rays of a 4-year-old's hand compared to that of a 7-year-old. As you can see on the left, the hand still shows cartilage, a hand not yet developed. While practices used in pre-K are often play-based, they are also designed to match their physical development and growth. We do this by exploring materials that allow us to use tweezers to pinch and grasp, hole punches, markers, beads for stringing, and putty. Developing these skills is foundational for handwriting, typing, playing instruments, athletics, and other activities that require fine motor skills. Literacy activities also happen throughout the day. Students are engaged in lessons through Big Day in Pre-K, which, as I shared before, incorporates read-alouds, whole group discussions, and small groups. Students also participate in guided reading groups and one-on-one sessions. Students work on learning letters and letter sounds, writing activities, discussions, and asking and answering WH questions. We also engage students in lessons as we transition through singing and dancing, as we line up while having a movement break, and through play. Joy in saying A says ah, B says buh. Yes. Do you know that R says and that's the growling dog sound, or that Z says zzz, and having 20 pre-K students pretend to be buzzing bees brings them joy? You should try it. Here, students are observed creating a story, listening to a story, and sharing a story of their own. But are they meeting benchmarks? The benchmark for end of year pre-K is to identify 12 letters and to read to a Faunus and Pinnell level B. In January, 11 of 20 students had passed a level A. 2 out of 20 had passed a B, and 1 student is reading at a level D, but is having difficulty answering comprehension questions related to the text at that level. End of year benchmark data isn't available at this time, and students will be assessed as we move towards the end of the 4th quarter. 5 out of 20 students know all 52 letters. 10 know 40 to 51 letters, and the other 5 are between 17 and 39 letters, all meeting end-of-year benchmarks for letter ID. 13 out of 20 students are able to state 20 to 26 letter sounds. Listening to them read or recite their letters, pure joy. In math, students have been learning about sorting, patterns, rote and one-to-one counting, and number identification. They have engaged in using various hands-on manipulatives to support their learning and understanding. End-of-year benchmarks are to rote and one-to-one count to 10. All 20 students are able to count to 13 or higher. Some are working on those tricky teens, while many are already counting to 50. 2 students are successfully counting to 100. Joy in math? Absolutely. Have you ever made a solo cup tower on the 100th day of school with 100 cups? Or made a necklace with 100 pieces of cereal? And what child doesn't love science? This year, students have learned about force and motion, pulleys and levers, ramps, and awesome insects. They have studied animals that hibernate, migrate, or adapt, have learned about magnets, and experimented with things that sink or float. The rest of our days are filled with specials such as art, music, library, PE, and guidance. In all of these areas, students continue to learn about the arts, get to move their bodies, and increase their fine and gross motor skills, work on listening and comprehension skills, work together, form relationships with other adults in the building, and in guidance, continue discussions on friendships, respect, kindness, and being part of a community. They get to sing, dance, laugh, and play. Speaking of play, we can't forget recess. Students have 2 opportunities a day for recess. This is a wonderful time to work on cooperative play skills, peer relations, and a time for gross motor exercise. And yes, we rest. The students have a 30-minute rest period per day. While a handful of students would fall asleep at the beginning of the year, most do not now. They do, however, lie on their rest mats and listen to music or read from their book boxes. Students have had opportunities throughout the year to make connections with many staff members in the building. They love visiting the office, Mr. Whitney, our custodian, and Nurse Streams. They know the kitchen staff as well. And lunch, students work on opening their own containers, trying new foods, and using manners while eating and socializing with peers. Pre-K students have participated in our school-wide peak and PTO events such as the Harvest Fall Festival, Math Peak Night, and our Culture Day. The Bangor Fire Department visited during our community helper theme as well as the news, and we had a guest speaker who talked about the country of Nigeria as part of our Culture Day. We also had the opportunity to ride the bus for the first time for many and make our own pizza at Angelo's. These experiences have enriched our students' education. Although not in this order, as you can see, there are many fun-filled days of learning and learning through play. There are days filled with developmentally appropriate practices. Friendships are formed, community is established, and learning takes place. There is joy and much to be grateful for.
Thank you so much. That was such a beautiful presentation. I really appreciate it. And I have to tell you all that, every time I see Emily, our boys play soccer together, and she's always talking about her kids, her students, her program. So her enthusiasm, her commitment, and her motivation is just really, commendable. So thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions? Member Sprague.
Only to briefly add a word of support for you. I wish every student in this whole state could have you or other pre-K teachers in Bangor as a teacher. It is so clearly evident that you care so much about our kids. And when the chair and I had a brief opportunity to be in your classroom during a tour, it was just fun to be in there. And I think there's some misconceptions out there that pre-K, especially all-day pre-K, is like a grind for these kids. But everything you've talked about learning through playing and social and emotional development and developmentally appropriate and arts, music, library, all that. It's just so wonderful for the kids. Plus 2 recesses and a 30-minute rest. Who among us would not like to have that during the day? But I just think this is a wonderful presentation, and academically, all-day pre-K has incredible benefits for the kids, but it's also a game changer for a lot of families to be able to have their kids in a safe, welcoming, warm place for more than just the half day of pre-K. So I know in the community out there, there's people that want just half day, and there's people that are fully enmeshed in full day. And if more people heard this presentation, I think that they would really understand the benefits of the all day version. So thank you.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work. Oh, and also, not to keep flattering here, but you were a great representative in that Bangor Daily News article. It's nice to have positive stories about Bangor schools in the press. So thank you for doing that.
And when we got a glimpse, we didn't want to leave the classroom. It was
come
so
back.
fun. Definitely. Other questions? Yes, Member Surratt.
Yeah, I would echo a lot of what Member Sprague said. This is wonderful. Presentation was amazing. I love the pictures. It really brought it to life. And I want to thank you both for all your work on this. And I know you're having wonderful impacts on our youngest kids. I really like the highlighting of the play-based learning model. And Member Sprague mentioned this a little bit. There's a ton of research out on that is the model that shows gains for kids academically, socially, and emotionally. Regardless of whether it's half day or full day. And it's just wonderful to hear about it so much and see it through the pictures. One of the things I was wondering if you could talk a little bit about for the community would be the parent caregiver communication piece. I think that would be important for people in the community to understand what that looks like within the pre-K environment too, because I assume it's a significant piece.
About the communication.
Yeah, between you and the parents of the students.
Sure. I do weekly newsletters or bi-weekly newsletters. I also use the Bangor app. As you can see, I love to take photos. I think that we're doing really fun things, and I, as a parent, love to have pictures of my children when they're doing things, and so I try to share parts of our day with them by putting pictures up on the app. So all of our families are connected that way, and they can comment and like the photos, and then I communicate with them. Only 4 of my students, 4 of the 20 ride the bus. Mm-hmm. The other parents all pick up or drop off, or a family member. And so I do that drop off face-to-face meeting with them. So I'm able to communicate with them mostly on a daily basis. And those that I don't see due to the fact that they ride the bus, then I spend a great deal of time just communicating with them through email or phone calls as well.
I was going to address that as well with the neighborhood schools that you've invested in. So many of the parents are out there meeting the staff, they're meeting the core group of people they will be going through the next however many years that they're in Bangor. So, and Emily's out there every day, and there's usually a little line waiting. And they have a little community going out there, so it's really nice.
Thank you.
Member Mundell.
Yeah, I won't repeat everything that's been said, but I agree 100%. This is really fantastic, and I appreciate everything that you're doing to get this up from ground zero and get it up and running. And it's clear that you're really passionate about what you do. And
We have a lot of fun.
Yeah, I had a question about you have 20 kids right now.
Yes. Yeah.
So how is any kid eligible for pre-K? And yeah, how are the
You
kids
have
selected?
to be eligible for PK, especially starting next year. The general rule is you have to be 4 on or before October 15th. And sometimes we have taken EKs, but moving forward, we have so many interested. We're already full for next year. Vine Street usually gets full around August 29th. We filled up almost, I think, 2 days after the registration period. That's never happened before.
Okay, that's what I was
So
going
a
to ask.
huge interest in this program, and we have a waiting list for next year.
And is it only Vine Street, the Vine Street?
We're adding next year Down East and Abe Lincoln.
Okay, great, fantastic. Thank you.
Can you also touch on the cultural piece too? Because I love how you're really, as a school, like kind of broadening horizons even at such a young age.
So
Cultural Day.
We had a culture day, and it started small and then just kind of grew. We kind of threw this idea out at our SEC team meetings, and each grade level chose a country. So we had the Wabanaki, Australia, Canada, Nigeria, and Mexico. And the whole school was just it was going to be just during the day, but it turned into such an amazing display that we invited parents to come in after school. And I think we want to do that year after year, but we were able to incorporate a lot of, because our pacing has to stay on pace as well, especially at the upper grades. But for example, second grade did Australia, when they did the animals, they pulled in the Lucy Calkins writing, and they read books about animals, and then they did the learn more about this animal. So they did their informational writing around that. And we were fortunate to be able to have a guest speaker this year from Nigeria, who has just moved here and volunteered right off, came to a PTO meeting. I said, would you like to come to our school? She was amazing. She brought, you want to tell her what she kind of did?
Yeah,
It's
so we
amazing.
in pre-K chose Nigeria because I have a student from Nigeria, and the children are just very interested and wanted to learn more about where she came from, and so that's why we chose that country to study. They can tell you so many amazing facts about the seasons there and the animals there, and so when the student's mother came in to talk to us, they continued to ask her questions, and it was just a really nice experience. She shared clothing that she made when she was there and fabric that she had. She also made the students masa, which is a type of bread. And so the students were able to sample food from that country. We made masks and colored the flag. And so it was a really fun experience for them. And we had our PE teacher actually spent some time in Africa, and he had instruments from a different part of Africa, but brought those back. And so the students were able to use some instruments made in a village in Ghana. And so we talked about how that was a different part of Africa, not where this child was from, but it was still really neat to be able to see, another part and use those instruments. So they had a great learning experience. And we also took a tour throughout the building, and of course, when we walked through Mexico, they thought they were walking in Encanto and sang the song from the movie. And but they, loved seeing other countries represented, and got to have a little walk-through parade of other countries too.
I love that, and I truly wish all schools did that, because a lot of our students aren't able to, travel outside of Maine even. So
I think the
what
one
a
thing the
beautiful
pre-K
thing.
is kept telling me, every one of them, all 20 of them, there are monkeys right there. You could be walking down the street and the monkey will be right there, Miss Silk, right there. And I was like, they're very excited about that.
Yeah. Thank you. Very much
Thank you.
appreciated. Okay, so next we have Bangor High School student travel.
Yes, Principal Paul Butler and English teacher Stephanie Hendricks will share with the committee plans to have students travel to Peru in the 2022-2023 school year.
I'm just going to make way for Stephanie. She was the impetus behind the ask or the request. Sure. The request, it's not a new one, but I think the impetus might have come from maybe building off what we just heard about the cultural experiences of kids, the proliferation of the Humanities Academy and sites on the world. Wasn't surprising to me that Stephanie Hendricks came with the idea of really well thought out and planful idea to explore the world literally with kids. And it's not an old idea, because the sort of the hallmark program, I'd say, with constancy in the eyes in the world has been world languages. And preceding my time at the high school, I believe there was some travel that was coordinated, but for whatever reason that didn't endure. And and it seems funny that at a time when we're feeling like maybe limited and parochial, maybe it's time to think big. And so I was glad to hear that it had such an enthusiastic reception from the superintendent, met by enthusiastic response to move ahead with some planning by Stephanie. And I understand she's pulled together some information that's going to hopefully convince everybody, as we thought, it's a really viable and great opportunity for our students. So I just turn it over to Stephanie.
Thank you.
I'm hopeful they're going to help get my slides ready. No worries. Thank you so much. Sure, that's fine. Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much. So, thank you. Hi, friends. I am so excited to be here with you tonight to share the plan for the Humanities Academy to be able to really embody the ethos of our program, which is to help grow global citizens who are able to think empathetically and critically about the world around them. Hold on, where'd my little button go?
Use the roller, I think.
Did it? There. Oh, here we are. Apologies, friends. I use a trackpad all the time. It's not. I wonder if the arrows will work better. Yes. Okay, so a little bit about the Humanities Academy. We are the newest academy at Bangor High School out of the 4 that we have, and our academy is pretty unique when you consider the way that the other 3 academies operate. One of the things that makes our academy unique is that students have an opportunity to join as full academy students as either freshmen or sophomores. So if rising 8th graders don't have their entire future planned out already and they need a little bit of time to adjust, they have the opportunity to do that before they commit to an academy. We also have a concentration. So if students aren't interested in a full academy experience, they can have a humanities concentration. Think of it like a minor in college. Or because we want all of our students to be competent global citizens, any student at Bangor High School can take humanities classes as electives. So you don't even have to commit to the academy experience to be part of the seminar style learning that we do in my classroom. We study all the ways that people try to record and understand the human experience, and we really focus on that by weaving together 3 different content areas: English, language arts, history, and world languages. So Mark Twain once said that travel is fatal to prejudice, bigotry, and narrow-mindedness, and many of our people need it sorely on these accounts. I know as a young student growing up in Maine that I never had the experience of not being a member of the dominant majority until I left Maine, until I left the United States even, and had the opportunity to travel in West Africa, in China, in Egypt, in Europe. And this is something that I really want to bring to our students. You know, Emily Dickinson said there is no frigate like a book, and that's true. And we're able to see the world through the literature and the texts that we study as windows, mirrors, and sliding glass doors, in the words of Gloria Ladson-Billings. But it's better if you can actually walk into those places and see how folks are living. When we were thinking about where we wanted to go first, Peru was a logical first step because it has some really serious curriculum connections. We start in our intro and seminar classes in the humanities reading Jared Diamond's Guns, Germs, and Steel. And that's a text that really asks us to be critical about why the world is so Eurocentric. At the very beginning of that book, Diamond has a conversation with a man named Yali, and Yali asks, why do you white people have so much cargo and we have so little? And so Diamond tries to answer that question and tries to explain how it works. And interestingly, he uses the case of the Inca in Peru as a way of understanding geographic luck and Eurocentrism, and how a band of only 168 conquistadors can defeat a civilization of tens of thousands of people. And so this is already part of our curriculum. It's one of our key core texts. And so linking our travel to something that students are already studying and already talking about and bringing them to a place where they can experience it on their own only makes sense. This trip also affords us a really unique opportunity to understand juxtaposition, where we'll be able to contrast the ancient and the modern, to really understand lots of different things about how the world works. I'll briefly go over our itinerary, but we're going to start in places like Lima, where we're really going to see modern Peru at its best, but we're also going to see the legacies of imperialism and see how Europe made its mark on the South American country, a mark that persists hundreds of years after that imperial experience. But we're also going to get to see the ancient and the indigenous as well by spending time in the Sacred Valley, by touring Machu Picchu and going to Cusco and working with some local craftspeople there. So in terms of the process, I started by sending an email and securing permission. Again, this is an ask that I had made in the past. This is my 19th year in Bangor. It's been a long time coming. And so after communicating with Superintendent Tager and Principal Butler, I moved forward. I did some interviews with teachers who travel in other schools in the area. So I have friends who teach at a high school down the road who are getting ready to depart for Greece right now on one of their multiple trips that they take through EF tours. And so I had some conversations with them about what worked, what didn't work, what do we need to know with regard to logistics. And then I contacted Caitlin Sands, who's the EF tours representative for the state of Maine. I also had conversations with the humanities students. I was like, what are you interested in and what do you want to do? And how can you be a part of driving this experience so that it can be the most meaningful and educational trip possible? So we decided we would travel with EF Tours. Superintendent Tager said that he had worked for school departments who had used EF Tours in the past. And I have found in my work with them in the number of conference calls and text messages that I'm exchanging back and forth with Caitlin, who is our representative, that they are professional and fabulous people to work with. They're very patient about answering all of the questions. I have a lot of them. And so one of the great things is that they really allow the chaperones and the folks who are going to be guiding the students on the trip to focus on taking care of the students. These are other people's children who are going to be in another part of the world under my care and other chaperones' care. That's a big responsibility. And so there's a lot of comfort to be taken in the fact that they take care of all of the logistics, from airfare, internal transportation, busing, hotels, entrance fees, and tickets. I don't have to worry about any of that stuff, and neither do any of the other chaperones. They also provide us with a full-time tour director who's fluent in the language and will be with us from the beginning to the end of the tour. And that tour director will be augmented by local tour guides who are really familiar and well-versed with the particular locations that we're going to see. So that's an add-on benefit as well. And they do have support through Caitlin, and there's also a 24/7 emergency hotline just in case someone loses their passport on a train or something happens while we're there. There are networks in place to make sure that everyone is safe and happy. So in terms of who can travel, this is really for students who are affiliated with the Humanities Academy in one way or another. That's either full Academy students, students who have taken the concentration, or students who are interested in taking any of our classes just as an elective. There are 4 different humanities classes that are offered. Currently, I'm teaching all of them, and I think that plan is supposed to continue for next year as well. And the plan is to travel for April vacation of 2023. So we were really deliberate about scheduling the trip at a time when school was not supposed to be in session, because even though this is an educational trip, we don't want to take away from student experiences in the classroom. This is supposed to be an add-on, not a replacement. So in terms of our itinerary, this is the really exciting part. Our plan right now is to fly out of Bangor. Caitlin and I talked about this a lot, and having gone through security at multiple airports, I would rather take students through security at Bangor than Logan, for example. Plus, when we get home, we're going to be exhausted, and nobody was looking forward to a 4-hour school bus ride to get home to their nice, comfy beds. We'll be spending the first part of the trip in Lima, really looking at some museums and some sites in that area, and again, understanding the legacies of imperialism. Traveling then to Cusco and the Sacred Valley, we'll be visiting temples, working with local guides. We also have some cultural experiences that are set up where students will be working with local weavers. We'll be visiting the Maris Salt Ponds. We'll be going to Ollanta Tambo, which is just a spectacular site that I'm very excited about. We will be at Machu Picchu, also working with the Seminario Ceramics Workshop. Students will get a chance to craft some ceramics using traditional methods, walking tours of local markets, and then after some time to explore, we'll return home on day 9. Which is not there because there wasn't room. In terms of what's included for the trip, every day breakfast and dinner are included. along with all of our transportation, all the lodging, all the entrance fees, all of our tour guides, all of our support. Students also have the additional add-on of opting to earn college credit through this tour, which I think is really exciting. And EF has a mandatory 6-to-1 chaperone ratio. So for every 6 students that are there, there has to be 1 chaperone that goes. So depending on how many students sign up, I might be looking for some chaperones to join us. In terms of the total cost of the trip, right now, our ballpark is about $4,000. Almost half of that is the airfare right now. And so that is something to keep in mind. But after talking with Superintendent Tager and Principal Butler, our hope is that we'll be able to gain some corporate sponsorship and some corporate underwriting for the trip. We're hoping to do some fundraising on our own, and hopefully that will help defray and lower the cost that students will have to cover or students' families will have to cover. EF Tours does have a special payment plan portal where each student kind of gets their own GoFundMe sort of page. So if, you know, grandma and grandpa pay them $20 for making honor roll, like that $20 could go right to the trip costs. And there are ways to do that for folks to share out that link so that people could make donations either to individual students, or they could make donations that would be spread across all the students that are going, that would defray the cost for everyone. The goal is that everybody who wants to be able to go on this trip gets to go on this trip, and that the finances are not going to stand in the way of making that happen. I have a very high success rate at grant writing and having grants approved, and I know the district has a grant writer. I have very high hopes that we're going to be able to make things work out for everybody who wants to go. In terms of our next steps, assuming that everything moves forward appropriately, the next step is to host an informational parent meeting with some question and answer sessions, and handing out the paperwork that parents will need to sign off on if their students are interested in coming on the trip. Right now, that parent meeting will be for all of the students who are currently at Bangor High School who are affiliated with the Humanities Academy. Once we have a better idea of what enrollment is for rising 8th graders and for other students who are adding into the Humanities Academy for course signups, I think student schedules are slated to go out in May. I know we're pretty close to having some of that data, but once we have that data, then we'll loop those folks into our meetings as well. And then the sooner everybody's on board, the sooner we can start fundraising, and the sooner we can start working on getting to Peru. And in terms of the travel benefits, I just want to reiterate that I think, you know, for an academy that's really focused on understanding the human experience, helping students get access to more different kinds of humans is absolutely necessary and is the best way that we can enhance their learning outside of the classroom. We know the research tells us that international travel helps people build empathy and perspective, and this is also an opportunity for students to experience growth on their own by kind of stepping out of their comfort zones and trying some new and different things. This is year 1 plan. If everything goes well, this will hopefully become an annual event. And so where we're doing a Spanish-speaking country for year 1, I think our plan is to maybe, if things go well, look at a French-speaking country for year 2 to align with our world language programs at Bangor High School. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I'm happy to answer any questions that any of you have.
This is absolutely phenomenal. I'm so excited. And when Superintendent Tager shared it with me, you have to ask him about my reaction. I was jumping out of my seat. So thank you, thank you, thank you. This is wonderful. Exactly what I said to Emily as well. Travel is definitely the antidote to racism and bigotry and everything like that, and all kinds of discrimination. And I think this is really eye-opening, especially for our students who do not have the chance to travel often. Just a couple of questions that I have. In terms of insurance, health insurance, do students have to cover their own, or is this something that will be covered by us?
So EF Tours offers an insurance package, It is a non-refundable $165 cost, and in talking with Caitlin and the superintendent and my principal, that insurance add-on is going to be mandatory for every student who wants to travel. It is a non-refundable $165. So at the point that, if something changes or if someone has to step back from the trip, we can figure out the logistics and how that will work out. That money doesn't come back from EF Tours, but sort of depending on what happens with our fundraising and how things work out and what the student's situation is. I've been kind of planning already for like what are some possibilities when that happens. But yeah, I'm not going anywhere with other people's children without having insurance in place. Yeah.
Wonderful, wonderful. And I think you touched on this a little bit. The plan is to make it equitable for everybody, right? So if someone is not able to pay anything at all, it would be covered, correct?
That is our hope. Yeah. So again, we're hoping that we'll be able to find some corporate sponsors who will be able to underwrite a portion of the trip. And like I said, each student has their own sort of GoFundMe portal that controls like how much they are paying and how much they owe for the trip. But as the person who will be coordinating the trip, I have access to everybody's dashboard. And so if we get corporate sponsors, if we get grant money, then I can equally distribute those funds across all the students, or if there's a gift that is specifically given for students who are in need to travel, then I can target those funds deliberately from my end on the website that they'll set up.
Okay, perfect. Because even with the GoFundMe, some people get,
Right.
obviously, depending on your socioeconomic status, it sometimes is very unfair. So
Right. Our goal is to, the whole point of this is that I think everybody deserves the opportunity to see the world, and everybody needs to be a more informed and empathetic global citizen. Otherwise, we're not going to get better. So hopefully we'll be able to do that.
So students who are thinking or considering taking an elective are able to go.
Absolutely, yes. And for students who are concerned about GPA, these are honors level electives that use seminar model teaching. So for folks who really like to talk about things that are important to the world, this is the place to be.
Good. And last question, I promise, from me. Chaperones, are those parents? Are they?
So that was one of the questions that I had raised in our last meeting that we had, and I think there are a couple of different options. So for every 6 paid trips, you get a trip free. And I think because of the way that district policies are read, if they, like as a teacher, I think because I'm going to be technically working on days that I'm not contracted, right, that my trip would be one of the free trips. And that would be true of other folks who sign on to be chaperones. I think that's one of the questions we have to think about, is whether we want parents to be able to be chaperones. We did have the conversation that parents or siblings might be able to travel along with students who are coming, but that's a different sort of, like they would pay for the trip to come, because I'm not sure. I know that even to volunteer in schools, parents, like I'm a parent of 2 Bangor students, we have to go through that volunteer training. I imagine it would be a little bit more intense of a process if you're traveling internationally with students, and I'm not sure. I feel like if a parent wants to sign on to the trip, they might just want to have fun and learn alongside their student instead of trying to really be responsible for other students along the way.
And that's where I was going with that. I worry about safety and
Yep.
the background checks of each chaperone, obviously, and so forth. So
Absolutely.
questions from the committee? Caroline?
Yes. This is very exciting, of course, and I'm really happy that Bangor High School is stepping in this direction, because I think international travel is really important for students. Could you just expand a little more on like hotels and like staying actually in the country and how like meals work and things like that?
Sure. So I shared the trip plan, I think, with all of you, but EF Tours, in their trip plan, they identified a couple of sample hotels. Usually those hotel rooms are shared between 3 to 4 students. And kind of depending on the logistics, I asked whether are students able to choose their own roommates? Is that something? And they're like, it's up to you. Figure that out. So I think once we know who's signing on for the trip and how that's going to work, that's a conversation that we can figure out of how many rooms are we going to need, who's going to stay with whom, and how is that going to work. In terms of the meals, as I mentioned, the trip includes breakfast and dinner every day, and then lunch is sort of on our own as a group in whatever location we happen to be in. I was talking about this in class today because I previewed the presentation for the humanities students, and I was like, let me know what you think. And one of the things that we were thinking about with regard to lunches is that, I mean, it would be utter chaos to have 20 different checks in another country to try to figure stuff out. And so I think we would probably just have one check and decide that, you know, everybody's going to give $10 for lunch or something like that. And we'll figure things out. Again, if we get enough sponsorship, if we get enough grant funding, then that may be something that we can cover as part of the tour, depending on what happens for students. I think logistically that would make things a whole lot easier. But I did talk to Caitlin at EF Tours, and they have protocols in place. So if there are students who need gluten-free diets, if there are students who have allergies, EF has protocols in place to handle that. I'm a vegetarian, so I asked that question. There are protocols in place to handle that. So given students' dietary concerns, we'll be able to handle that. And as much as possible, the focus is on local cuisine, wherever the trip happens to be, so that you know, students aren't consuming the same sort of American fare that you might get, but really expanding not only their worldview, but also their palates. I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Member Sichters.
Hi.
Hi. So obviously, I mean, we've been talking about this for 8 years.
Yes.
So I'm supportive, but I have a question.
Sure.
Or there's no but it just I have a question. The fundraising piece. So you've mentioned corporate sponsors and grants and then fundraising. What have other area schools or schools around the country? I mean, I know when I was in high school, back, you know, when the dinosaurs roamed the world, you know, there was bake sales and raising money through whatever. So I was wondering if you could talk a little bit more about those pieces.
Sure. So in terms of corporate sponsors, well, actually, let me step back. So one of the things that I really want to focus on is helping students find agency and having them write for authentic audiences. So whatever fundraising letters or letters asking for corporate sponsors or for fundraising, I want those to be designed and drafted by students. Clearly with somebody proofreading and checking things over, but I want their voices to be the ones that people are hearing. I think in terms of what we have in the Bangor area, Bangor Savings Bank is always really generous with funding. Jersey Mike's was just recently very generous. And so I think that there are businesses in the area that if we write a letter and give the ask who might be willing to donate. Students may have connections through parents or caregivers to other businesses or corporations who might be willing to write a check in exchange for a tax write-off, for example. So I think that's one portion of that. In terms of grants, that's something that I would really want to coordinate with the superintendent's office with, maybe with the district grant writer. I know that there are a number of civil rights leaning grants that are designed to really help address diversity, equity, and inclusion issues and other civil rights issues. And I think international travel falls really nicely into a lot of those areas. And so I think there may be grant funding available. And then with fundraising, all of this is going to have to be coordinated at the high school level through student council and class councils who are also fundraising as well to pay for things like prom and graduation. So we'll have to work really closely with Principal Butler and with Mr. Hutchins to make sure that we're not stepping on any toes, that we're not double dipping, and that we're really being smart about how we're trying to leverage our community resources. That being said, when I talked to some of the other schools who do travel through EF tours, for the most part, they do not do fundraising because their families either pay for the cost of the trip or they don't. And so I think that puts us in a really unique position because the goal is to make sure that students who are interested have the opportunity to go. And that's not something that's true of all of the schools that I spoke with, that I know who travel. So I don't know if that fully answers the question, but those are some of the nascent ideas. And as we come to understand like how many people are signing on, as we get some information from caregivers and families about where people are standing, that'll give us a fundraising goal to kind of shoot for. And then we'll be able to kind of do some backwards planning to figure out how are we going to get there and what are some of the best means of making that happen. Sure.
Member Sorg.
Hi.
Hi, Steph. Questions for you. Myself, having traveled extensively throughout the world and even behind the Iron Curtain when it was still there, both my children had that opportunity. I'm thinking that it's just going to be limited to humanities-related students at this time. Would it ever be open to other students at school? Because it's a tremendous opportunity to see what the rest of the world is like. We were in East Germany, in Berlin, East Berlin, 1986, just before we came home from Germany. And we went behind the side streets and saw what the Russians had done in Europe. It was very sad. There were still bullet holes in the wall from World War II. So to me, it's an opportunity not just for the students in humanities, but I would like to see eventually maybe more students in Bangor High given the opportunity to participate somehow.
Yeah, so that was one of the questions that we talked about when we met, and I think there were some pretty strong feelings that we wanted to make sure that students saw this as a real educational opportunity, that this was going to be experiential learning that was connected to our curriculum, that was aligned to the standards, and that was really going to add additional layers to the education that they were already getting at Bangor High School. And so one of the issues with sort of opening it up to everybody is that, you know, they may not have the learning, they might not have the curriculum, they might not have the reading of the books and the articles and the community building and the things that we have in the Humanities Academy that are already part of our curriculum, a curriculum that's really flexible given what students' needs and interests are. And so I think it's that ability to anchor the travel in the curriculum that makes it such a valuable part of the Bangor High School experience. I absolutely hear what you're saying, and my wish would be that everybody would have an opportunity to see the world as much as possible. But I think if we're really going to be deliberate about doing this as an educational institution, then I feel like we have to be responsible about how that travel is working and making sure that students have the foundation that they need to be able to have that experience in, I think, what would be a more powerful way once they get to whatever the places are that we're going, right? And so that was part of the conversation. I think also my understanding, and I might be speaking out of turn, so please correct me, but my understanding is that the Humanities Academy, because it's such a sort of international travel is such a logical step for what we do and what our curriculum looks like, that to some extent, we're kind of the guinea pigs and we're trying it out. And we're going to see how it happens and how it works. And then that might open up other opportunities. EF Tours, for example, offers STEM trips, and we have a STEM academy. They offer language immersion trips. We have world language classes. Like there might be other possibilities as well. But I think for now, kind of allowing anybody who wants to take any of our 4 humanities classes as an elective, and particularly now that we're going back to a 7 or 8 period day, I think anybody who is interested would probably have the opportunity to fit it in their schedule and go as well.
Are there, is there a maximum number of students or a minimum?
So not really. So the issue with our number of students is that if we have a smaller group, so right now our Humanities Academy has about 20 students enrolled, and word has it from guidance that there are about 15 rising 8th graders who are going to be joining, which is phenomenal. So if everybody wanted to go, that's a group of like 35-ish kind of people, right? If we have a small enough group like that, then what'll happen when we get to Peru is that we may be paired up with other school districts in the United States who are also traveling at the same time. So we might share buses, we might share internal flights, we might share hotels with schools from Massachusetts or Minnesota or wherever, because of how EF Tours books their travel. If, however, we have like everybody all of a sudden wants to join the Humanities Academy and we have a huge number of people, then all that happens is we get our own tour bus and we don't have to share with anybody, and it would just all be Bangor students on that bus traveling through the country and staying together in the hotel. So I think it will work either way, no matter how many students are excited about this.
Other questions, comments? No? All righty, thank you.
Thank you, sure.
This was wonderful. Okay, so we move on to business action items, and the first action item we have minutes for the regular meeting of March 30th, 2022.
I'm recommending approval of the draft minutes of the March 30, 2022 regular school committee meeting.
Can I get a motion, please?
So moved.
Any questions, comments? No? All in favor?
Motion passes 6-0.
Next, we have donations, and I believe Sarah was supposed to read those, and Sarah's not here. Can someone read those for her, please? Member Surratt?
To the James F. Dowdy School from Stacy Powell, a cash donation to support students having a total dollar value of $400.
Okay, can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Motion passes 6-0.
Thank you. Next, we have committee updates. We have comments and questions from the committee. Any comments, questions? Member Surratt?
I just had a quick question. I was interested I was curious to know if Mr. Tager could speak just a little bit. We've been about 30-ish days since we went to mask optional. I just was interested, had the numbers changed at all in terms of our cases?
Numbers are good. We're still having very low numbers in our pooled testing. The state is changing direction. You'll be getting some information on that soon. They're going to go to providing test kits for all of our families. So we're working on a distribution plan to do that. They're saying with the new variant, that's a better way to go about it. So pooled testing will end around the middle of May. Christy's not in here tonight, but we have a number of tests that we've accumulated, so we may try to continue that a little bit longer. I believe it's been successful for us, but the state is saying now that we are going to go to these kits that we're going to pass out. So that's kind of the newest thing, but our numbers remain good. We're still in green. If we stay in green or yellow, we're without mask. If we go into the red, we're going to ask people to put the mask back on. So it's kind of where we're standing right now.
Member Sixers.
So what is the next step with the international travel plan? Because we didn't vote on it.
No, you don't need to vote on it. I've looked at past policy, and if the superintendent can approve it, so you don't have to vote on that. So good question, but we want to just give you the informational tonight.
Awesome. So does that mean you are approving it, or are you still thinking about it?
No, I'm good with it. We wanted to share it with you.
Awesome. Thank you.
Approved. Other questions? Member Sprague?
I still never know if this is the right moment in the meeting to say these things, but I'm going to say them anyways. I just wanted to thank and congratulate the staff at 14th Street School. Very biased towards that school. That's where my kids go, but I enjoyed watching my second grader in his theater club yesterday put on a show. was nice to have people together in the same room. Mr. Bannon did a nice job introducing it, and Mrs. Robichaud and Mrs. Bridges gave their time after school for a couple months to get the kids going with their theater academy. So that was a lot of fun. And I wanted to acknowledge, he's probably gonna be annoyed with me, but we have a new doctor in the house. Mr. Chadbourne is now Dr. Chadbourne. I saw on Facebook this week. So congratulations to Dr. Chadbourne for earning that distinguished title. It's probably, I'm sure it's a result of many years now of hard work. So congratulations, Dan.
And I heard you defended yesterday, so congratulations. Wonderful. I have 2 more years, so wish me luck. Oh, wonderful. Other comments, questions?
I just wanted to mention that I went to the orchestra last night, and Caroline was in there, did just a magnificent job. I was very impressed. It was Mary Snow and Fairmont were combined, Cohen and Dowdy, and then Bangor High School, and they kind of went in that order. But my wife actually was a band member, and we were both very impressed by the talent at every grade level. So it's a really good thing.
Excellent. Oh, Member Mundell, sorry.
Yeah, I just thought of a question that I meant to ask earlier. I saw that you were hiring a drama technician. I was wondering if you could explain a little bit about that.
I think I could. I think Hutch had a baby, and so he's no longer able to do that. So I think we're looking for a replacement. Is that accurate? Sort of?
It's a combination of
Okay.
things. I don't know if you're referring, so there's a position in co-curricular extra duty that's a dramatics technical advisor. And it's a role that is in some ways the functional arm of a theater program. Somewhat the technical, if we find somebody that has the technical expertise to run the board and to be competent. We've upgraded with thanks to Mr. Heyman and others. We've got a pretty complicated bank of lighting. We've worked on better audio. It was actually a fix that was needed. Hutch comes in because he's been everything peaks, but he's, if you know Eric Hutchins, he's everything. And he had to give something up, and it was time to look for some lateral capacity building. We brought some people aboard who have that skill and that interest, and we're looking to fill that part of it as well. We're proud of the venue. It's got a real shot in the arm, and this is somebody that can come in and really step up the game that way and be a valuable arm on the theater side of things. So
We're hoping maybe they could help students too that have that interest as well.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay. So we will move on to representatives' reports. Does anyone have a representative report? No? Okay. I do have actually a representative report for the DEI committee. And as many of you have seen, or probably have seen, the recent article that came out in the news, which is currently being reviewed. But I have to reassure the community and reassure every single one of us that this will only strengthen our resolve. We have an outstanding DEI committee with some of the top DEI SMEs, subject matter experts across the state. And there is excellent work being done. I definitely wanted to highlight that because I don't want people to think that we're just not walking the talk, we're just talking the talk. There are 4 subcommittees that will report out on May 4th, and we will have a representative from each subcommittee that will report here to the school committee on May 11th. And I think this is very important that, we really listen to the excellent work that's being done. I know Stephanie's on one of the subcommittees, and I know Liz is as well. We will take the recommendations that are brought forth to us to our retreat, and we will look at actionable steps for the following year. And so Superintendent Tager and I have really discussed this at great length, and we'll make sure that we carry on this excellent work that has happened over the year. Superintendent Tager?
Yes, thank you, Chair Hostin. I would also like to acknowledge claims that were brought forward during the introduction of the LD 598, an act to prohibit discrimination in employment and school based on hair texture or hairstyle, to the Maine legislature. In a floor speech, a representative from Bangor referenced a conversation with the Bangor High School senior surrounding claims of discrimination during her time in the Bangor School Department. The Federal Education Rights and Privacy Act prevents me from speaking on the details of the specific claims. However, complaints surrounding bias, inequity, or discrimination are issues that I and the rest of the Bangor School Department take seriously. The legislative testimony was our first knowledge of the students' experience with hair discrimination. I'm excited about the diversity, equity, and inclusion work, along with the recent hires in the Bangor School Department, including a DEI coordinator, a communications director, graduation coach, and a mentoring coordinator. These achievements allow us to better welcome these discussions with students and propel us forward in our commitment to a culture of inclusion. These moments serve as teachable moments and create change when needed. We have accomplished many things, and I look forward to our upcoming DEI report to the school committee on May the 11th, and urge those who may be interested in this work to attend the meeting or view from home. As an institution committed to educational equity and celebrating the diversity of our community, we appreciate the sentiment behind LD 598, the elected officials who introduced it, and the current and future students that this bill will support. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other committee reports? No? Caroline, do you have one? Sure.
Hello. It is the busy month of April, and I know students are getting ready for April vacation, which is coming up next week, and we're very excited. I just have a few things tonight. On update on the Ukraine fundraiser, we raised over $3,300 for Sunflowers for Peace, and it was a really successful effort. I think a lot of the high school really took it seriously and really showed their support, and it was great. The teachers supported it through the district-wide Jeans Day. There was a lot of money raised with that, and we had a movie night with a bake sale, which we raised money for. And then we also sold sunflower seeds, stickers, and magnets to students, and there was a lot of positive reception of that. And students are purchasing sunflowers that are growing in a greenhouse at the high school, which is also a great way to show support. And so that was a really exciting thing to happen, and it's one of the most inspiring student-led movements I've ever seen at the high school. Also, the talent show will be coming up. I don't have an exact date yet, but auditions just happened, so stay tuned for that. Students are participating in spring sports. Last Saturday, there was a District 5 music festival, and students were selected from the band, chorus, and orchestra to participate in an all-day event where they got to interact with students from across the state and perform music together, which was great. And I was going to mention the orchestra concert last night. I was participating, and I'm happy that Superintendent Tager received it well. And I hope that it will be on the YouTube page sometime, because I know it was recorded, so look out for that. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Caroline. Wonderful. And I apologize to the administrators that are on the DEI committee, because I know several of you are on there as well. Informational items. So we have several important dates. We have Wednesday, April 27th, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m., council chambers. Wednesday, May 11th, 2022, regular meeting, 7 p.m., council chambers. Tuesday, May 17th, 2022, school committee members retreat from 8:30 to 3 at Redmond and Winchell. May 25th, 2022, we have another regular meeting, 7 p.m. here in council chambers. Monday, June 13th, 2022, we have first reading of school budget with city council, 7:30 p.m. here in council chambers. And Monday, June 27th, 2022, we have a second reading of the school budget with city council, 7:30 p.m. council chambers. And last chance for questions or comments from the school committee. And I have one actually for Principal Butler. Can you tell us a little bit about how activities for the seniors are going? I know I saw there's an update for Senior Salute and Senior like academic night, all in
we're-
person, correct?
Yeah, we're all systems go. It's been nice. We, as we do typically the first early weeks in April, we solidify the ritual dates, and we've done that. We've got, I'll go from memory. The only substantive change for the May events is we've decided to isolate seniors for the senior academic awards. I think that's on May 12th. And trying to keep the events to an hour. That's about what, pack a lot of action in an hour. People seem to appreciate that. We feel that, so 2 weeks after that, I believe on the, I don't want to say a wrong date, so we'll make sure they're public, but we'll do the underclassmen awards, freshmen, sophomores, and juniors. We're going back to a traditional run of senior week and graduation. We've got the senior salute. I know it by days of the week. So Tuesday, senior salute. Wednesday is the last day of senior exams and senior exam makeups. But I'd like to appreciate the opportunity to talk about these things because we talk about needing to induct students back to a sort of new way of doing things, or an old way, but it's new to them because there's been so many disruptions and schools so fundamentally changed. But back to normal, we've got Senior Salute, which is what in former years might be known as baccalaureate. It's a way that students, they're in their garb, their regalia. They have a brief address. It's the only time outside in the culmination of the celebration of the senior that they hear from somebody that's not affiliated with the school department. We try to choose somebody that's interesting and have some relevant ties to the class and has a message. So there's a speech, there's a short event, and that's when it really starts to feel real. We're going to probably tone down the marching in step. We're still going to have all the things, but I think we had a pretty long discussion about it that the formal pomp and circumstance, or it's always going to be a special event, but we spent a lot of time in the past of a lot of school time trying to line up the steps, and we're going to spend a little bit less time on that and more time on the bigger meaning. We've got our graduation on.
Sorry.
It's on the calendar. It's a Sunday. We've been already in conversation with Cross Center. We've already started mapping out the rehearsal dates. We're going to have fewer, more intense rehearsals and really focus on the special nature of being able to graduate in a very traditional way. So I probably butchered the dates.
It's okay.
I'm going to do a really great job leading it when the time comes, but we'll get the dates out. We'll start directly communicating with families and have our typical website run and the mailings. We had some good luck 4 or 5 years ago with a magnet-like card that mails home. So we're excited. It's great to be back in the routine.
So exciting.
Yeah.
As a parent of a senior, we cannot wait.
We're excited. Thank you.
And so we scratched the idea of outdoor graduation.
The net effect was, truthfully, it wasn't any less expensive. It certainly wasn't less efficient. It was a lot more work. I'm not opposed to it. I really think the better venue would be the stadium. And we're not opposed to it, but really felt like, I was just reflecting on this the other day. It's my 11th year at the high school. And there have been, by my count, 5 graduations that have been something about them has been altered. We opened the Cross Center with a graduation, and they were literally getting the certificate of occupancy on a Friday, and we were in there on a Sunday. It was up in the air. There's the year that we got bumped and had to go to Humane. There's the drive-through graduation. I want to be down at the Cross. I want to have everything all set up. I want to have all the routine that we know that we introduce ourselves to, that before we try to diversify and add another graduation at a different event. So not opposed to it, but we'll make graduation very special. Thank you.
Any questions? Last chance? No? All righty. Adjournment. Can I get a motion, please? Second. All in favor?
6-0, thank you.
Good night.